At 62 years old, I never imagined I would be steering my car through the city's empty streets close to midnight, my hands gripping the wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. The world outside was silent, but inside my chest, my heart pounded like a drum that wouldn't stop. Earlier that evening, I had passed by the towering glass building where my husband, Elijah Vance, had worked for more than 2 decades. Normally, the lobby lights glowed warmly, and even late at night, you could find cars scattered across the lot. But that night, it looked abandoned. Dark windows, empty parking spaces, and a large printed sign taped to the front doors. Building closed for renovations beginning 6 p.m. I remember standing there for a moment, staring, wondering if I had made some mistake. Maybe I had driven to the wrong address. Maybe I was letting my imagination wander. But no, the logo was right there on the glass doors. This was Elijah's office. And it was closed. Confusion twisted into dread. My fingers trembled as I pulled out my phone and dialed his number. When he answered, his tone was smooth, confident, practiced. "Simone, I can't talk now. We're still here working on the Tokyo contract. It's intense. Don't wait up for me, darling." It was the kind of response that might have eased my mind on any other night. But not this time. Because behind his words, I heard something else. A faint laugh. The low murmur of voices. And then, a soft sound, intimate, unmistakable. My chest tightened. My vision blurred for a moment, and the steering wheel felt like it might slip from my grasp. For a long minute, I sat there in silence, the phone still pressed to my ear though Elijah had already hung up. I tried to tell myself I had misheard. That maybe it was a colleague in the background. That maybe I was imagining things. But in my gut, I knew. I knew the sound of my husband's lie. And then I remembered the family GPS tracker app. The same one I had insisted we keep after Elijah's accident last year. My hands shook as I opened it. There it was. A blue dot, glowing faintly on the map. Elijah's Mercedes-Benz. But it wasn't anywhere near his office. It was 40 minutes away, in a part of Atlanta we had never once visited together. The kind of neighborhood you see in glossy magazines, tree-lined streets, elegant homes, manicured lawns. I started the car and drove. Each mile felt heavier than the last, as if the road itself was pushing back against me. My thoughts raced, a storm of anger, disbelief, and fear. Could it really be? Could the man I had built my life with for 40 years be lying to me this completely? The closer I came to the dot on the screen, the more the truth pressed down on me. Every traffic light was a reminder. Every turn of the wheel peeled back another layer of denial. I thought about our 2 children, our 3 grandchildren, our holidays together, the years we had spent building what I thought was an unshakable marriage. And yet, with every passing second, that foundation crumbled. Finally, I turned onto a quiet street. My headlights swept across rows of houses, each one glowing softly in the night. And then I saw it. A cobalt blue 2-story home, neat and picturesque, with flowers lining the walkway and a wooden swing on the porch. Parked neatly at the curb was Elijah's silver Mercedes, gleaming under the street lamp like an accusation. I pulled over 3 houses away, my body trembling as I killed the engine. I couldn't move. My eyes locked on the house, as if the answers to 40 years of my life were hiding behind those walls. Through the lace curtains of the upstairs window, I caught the faintest flicker of shadows moving inside. A woman's silhouette. Then another, smaller figure beside her. The shapes were indistinct, blurred by fabric and distance, but I knew what I was seeing. I stayed there for hours, the night pressing down on me, the truth circling closer and closer like a predator. By the time the first streaks of dawn lit the sky, the Mercedes was gone. The house stood quiet, innocent, as though the night had been nothing more than a nightmare. But I knew better. Nightmares end when you wake up. This was real. And it was only the beginning. I sat there in my car, engine off, 3 houses down from that cobalt blue home. The neighborhood was so quiet it almost felt staged, like a perfect photograph. The porch light glowed warmly over neatly trimmed flowers. A wooden swing rocked gently in the breeze, whispering secrets I wasn't meant to hear. Everything about the house spoke of stability, comfort, permanence. This wasn't the kind of place you rent for fleeting affairs. This was a place you built a life. My eyes locked on the second-floor window where lace curtains swayed softly. Shadows moved inside. My breath caught in my throat. I should have left. I should have driven home, crawled into bed, and convinced myself I had imagined it all. But my body wouldn't obey. Something inside me, the part of me that still wanted truth over comfort, forced me to stay. And then I saw her. A woman stepped into the frame of the upstairs window. She wasn't a stranger in the typical sense. She was the embodiment of everything I had once been. Mid-40s, maybe. Dark hair pulled into a messy bun. She moved with the ease of someone who belonged there, someone who didn't question her place in the world. But what froze my blood wasn't her face. It was her robe. Silk, the same style Elijah had given me on our 35th anniversary. Only hers was sapphire blue instead of burgundy. I remembered the way Elijah had said, "I chose it because it reminded me of you." I had worn it for years, believing it was special. But here she was, wrapped in its twin, as if he had duplicated his gestures like cheap tricks in a magic show. I couldn't breathe. My chest tightened with a mix of rage and despair. Then, another figure appeared beside her. Smaller. Younger. A boy, maybe 10 years old. His hair was thick and wavy, falling across his forehead in a way that made my stomach twist. Because I knew that hair. I had brushed that same pattern from Elijah's brow for decades. The woman smiled, pulling the boy close as if they had shared this nightly ritual 1,000 times. Together, they moved deeper into the room, disappearing into the glow of a lamp. That's when my phone buzzed on the seat beside me. My heart lurched. Elijah's name lit up the screen. I hesitated before opening the message. Still stuck at the office. Don't wait up for me tonight. I'll be late, love. The words stared back at me like venom. My husband was lying to me in real time, his car parked in plain sight outside another woman's home. I wanted to scream, to march up those steps and pound on the door until the facade crumbled. But some instinct deeper than anger held me back. Not yet. If I stormed in now, he'd twist it, deny it, bury me in explanations I wasn't ready to challenge. No, I needed to see more. To know more. The hours bled together as I sat there, my eyes fixed on that house. The swing on the porch swayed when the wind picked up. A dog barked faintly in the distance. But the silence inside my car was deafening, broken only by the sound of my own uneven breathing. At some point, exhaustion took me. I don't remember falling asleep, only jerking awake when a sharp beam of sunlight cut across my face. Morning had come. The neighborhood was alive now. Kids with backpacks running to buses, neighbors walking dogs, sprinklers hissing across perfect lawns. And Elijah's Mercedes was gone. I gripped the wheel and forced myself to drive home. Each turn felt like moving through fog, my mind both numb and burning. When I pulled into our driveway, I froze. Because standing at the door, holding a white box with a bright red bow, was Elijah. "Morning, sweetheart," he called, his smile wide, casual. I picked up donuts. Your favorite, cream-filled. The same man who had kissed another family goodnight just hours before was now kissing me on the cheek, handing me breakfast like nothing had changed. He smelled of cologne, fresh aftershave, not a trace of guilt on his face. He was flawless in his act. A man who could juggle lives like an acrobat, never missing a step. And for the first time in my marriage, I realized just how dangerous his lies had become. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't weakness. This was a performance. And I had been the audience for 40 years. The kitchen smelled of warm sugar as Elijah placed the donut box on the counter, humming like a man with nothing to hide. His silver hair was neatly brushed, his tie hanging loose around his neck, and the smile on his face carried the same charm that had won me over 40 years ago. But I wasn't looking at my husband anymore. I was looking at an actor. "Boston cream for my Boston girl," he said lightly, lifting the lid to reveal my favorite pastries. He had used that line for decades, a small gesture that once felt like love. Now it tasted like poison. I forced a smile, though my lips trembled. "How thoughtful of you," I murmured, my voice strangely distant, like it belonged to someone else. "Why don't you take a shower while I brew the coffee?" "Perfect idea," he said, his grin widening as though nothing were wrong. He picked up his briefcase, dropped it on the bed, and disappeared into the bathroom. Moments later, the hiss of the shower filled the house. I stood frozen, staring at the closed door. My pulse pounded in my ears. Then, almost against my will, my feet carried me toward the briefcase. The latch clicked open with a soft snap. At first, everything looked ordinary. Neatly stacked contracts, his tablet, a few receipts, pens. But then I noticed a slim black phone tucked in a side pocket I had never seen him use before. My heart lurched. I lifted it out, my hands trembling so violently I could barely swipe the screen. No password. Just arrogance. The first message lit up the screen like a dagger. "Daddy, don't forget my soccer game Saturday. Mommy says you promised to come. Love you, Jalen." Jalen. The boy I had seen in the window. The boy with Elijah's wavy hair and tilted smile. My throat tightened, my knees weak beneath me. I scrolled further. Dozens of messages. "Marcus, don't be late. Sky has her doctor's appointment. Love you. Dinner's in the oven. Come home safe. We miss you. Marcus." The name screamed at me from the screen. My husband wasn't just Elijah Vance anymore. He was Marcus Stanton. Husband. Father. Another man entirely. I dropped the phone back into the briefcase, slamming it shut just as the water turned off. My chest burned as I stumbled back to the kitchen, gripping a coffee mug so tightly it nearly cracked in my hand. Elijah strolled in, whistling, adjusting his tie. "Sleep well?" he asked, his tone casual, practiced. "Like a rock," I lied. He smiled. "Last night was brutal at the office. I barely got 2 hours on the sofa." I bit down on the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood. The office was closed. I saw the sign. "You liar." "And Daryl," he added smoothly, "snored in the next room all night. Drove me crazy." Daryl. The man who had retired 6 months ago. We had been at his farewell dinner together, Elijah shaking his hand with tears in his eyes, praising his loyalty. And now he used the name like a prop in another story. The audacity almost made me laugh. Almost. "Poor you," I whispered, forcing my lips into a smile. He kissed my forehead, grabbed his briefcase, and walked out the door. The moment it closed, I collapsed into a chair. My body shook as I pressed my palms against my face. How many times had I missed the signs? The jewelry receipt years ago. The strange charges on our credit card. Our daughter Amara insisting she had seen him at the mall with a child who looked just like him. Back then, I had chosen to believe his excuses. I had told myself, he's tired. He's stressed. He's loyal. He's mine. But sitting there in that kitchen, the truth hit me like a hurricane. I hadn't been blind. I had been willfully blind. I had chosen ignorance because the truth was too terrifying to face. No more. That night, I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection. Wrinkles mapped my face, gray streaked through my hair, but my eyes burned with something I hadn't seen in years. Not fear. Not doubt. But determination. I opened my closet and pulled out jeans, a dark hoodie, oversized sunglasses. I stuffed my hair beneath a baseball cap. When I looked in the mirror again, Simone, the loyal wife, was gone. In her place stood someone else. Someone ready to hunt. The next morning, I drove straight back to the blue house. I parked near the corner, close enough to see but far enough to stay hidden. Children played in the yard. Candace stepped outside, waving to neighbors, her baby strapped to her chest. They laughed, smiled, carried on with the ease of a family that belonged. And as I sat there, a single truth settled into my bones like ice. This wasn't an affair. This wasn't weakness. This wasn't temporary. This was a second life, a double identity. And I was finally ready to tear it apart. The disguise was simple. Jeans, hoodie, sunglasses, a baseball cap pulled low, but when I glanced at my reflection before leaving, even I barely recognized the woman staring back. Gone was Simone, the dependable wife who baked birthday cakes, ironed shirts, and waited at the window for her husband to come home. In her place stood someone sharper. Someone who had been reborn in fire. That afternoon, while Elijah was at the office, I drove straight back to the neighborhood that haunted me. The moment I turned the corner, my eyes went to the cobalt blue house. In the daylight, it looked even more picturesque. White shutters, a porch swing swaying lazily, flower pots bursting with color. A home built for permanence. A life carefully crafted. I parked down the street, heart racing as I adjusted my sunglasses. At 2:15 sharp, the front door opened. Out stepped the woman I had seen before. Candace. She carried herself with the tired grace of someone balancing motherhood and marriage. Her hair was pulled into a loose braid, and strapped across her chest was a baby carrier. A baby. My breath hitched. It wasn't just the boy I'd seen in the window. Elijah, no, Marcus, had fathered a second child. My husband wasn't just hiding another family, he was still building one. Candace adjusted the blanket shielding the baby's face, then waved to a neighbor watering his lawn. They exchanged pleasantries like old friends. She wasn't some fling tucked away in secrecy. She belonged here. She was woven into the fabric of this street, this life. I followed her at a safe distance as she strolled to a coffee shop 2 blocks away. Inside, the air smelled of roasted beans and cinnamon. Candace joined 2 other women, each cradling infants of their own. I slid into a corner table, my hat pulled low, pretending to scroll through my phone. Their laughter drifted across the cafe like a cruel melody. "You're so lucky, Candace," one of the women said, sipping her latte. "Marcus is such a hands-on dad. Not every husband is that dedicated." Marcus. The name cut through me like glass. Candace smiled, bouncing the baby gently. "Yes, Marcus is wonderful with them. Even with his work schedule, he makes time. He travels for business 3 or 4 days a week, but he always makes it up to us when he's home. Jalen especially adores him. 3 or 4 days. The exact length of Elijah's supposed business trips." Another woman leaned in. "And how is Jalen with the new baby?" Candace laughed softly. "Jealous at first, but Marcus handled it beautifully. He bought him a baseball glove, and now they spend every Saturday together at the park. It's their thing." My stomach churned. Those same Saturdays Elijah had sworn he was trapped in seminars or corporate meetings. He had been at the park, throwing baseballs with his other son. Candace pulled out her phone and began swiping through pictures. I leaned ever so slightly, my chest tightening with every image. Elijah at the beach, carrying Jalen on his shoulders. Elijah, his arm wrapped proudly around Candace as she cradled her pregnant belly. Elijah, holding the newborn baby with a tenderness I hadn't seen in years. And always in those photos, he wasn't Elijah Vance. He was Marcus Stanton. Husband. Father. Devoted. I stumbled out of the cafe, my legs weak. The air outside felt too sharp, too bright, pressing against my lungs until I couldn't breathe. That's when I heard it. "Go, Jalen. Kick it hard." The shout rang out from the park across the street. I turned, my pulse hammering, and there he was. Elijah, no Marcus, on the field, sleeves rolled up, tie gone, his face glowing with energy I hadn't seen in years. He clapped, shouted encouragement, jogged across the grass like a man in his 30s. Jalen ran toward him, grinning wide, and Elijah scooped him into the air, spinning him around with a laugh so genuine it stopped me cold. It wasn't an act. Not here. Not with them. For 20 minutes, I stood rooted to the sidewalk, watching him. The same man who kissed me goodnight, who whispered "I love you" as he left for work, was here, being someone else entirely. He looked happier, freer, as though this was the life he was meant to live, while I had been reduced to an afterthought, a placeholder. Who was the real man? The Elijah who shared my bed? Or the Marcus who lived and breathed in this park, surrounded by love and laughter? Or maybe there was no real man at all. Maybe there was only performance. My phone buzzed in my pocket, jolting me back. Elijah's voice filled my ear, smooth as silk. "Hey, love. Meeting finished early. Want me to grab something for dinner?" Across the park, he was still shouting encouragement, still laughing, still holding Jalen high in the air. I swallowed hard, my voice steady despite the rage boiling inside. "That would be perfect, darling. Bring the Cabernet. You know the one." "I love you, Simone," he said. My lips curled into a bitter smile. "I love you too." I ended the call and watched him on the field, his laughter echoing across the grass. The lie was complete, but not for much longer. The disguise was simple. Jeans, hoodie, sunglasses, a baseball cap pulled low, but when I glanced at my reflection before leaving, even I barely recognized the woman staring back. Gone was Simone, the dependable wife who baked birthday cakes, ironed shirts, and waited at the window for her husband to come home. In her place stood someone sharper. Someone who had been reborn in fire. That afternoon, while Elijah was at the office, I drove straight back to the neighborhood that haunted me. The moment I turned the corner, my eyes went to the cobalt blue house. In the daylight, it looked even more picturesque. White shutters, a porch swing swaying lazily, flower pots bursting with color. A home built for permanence. A life carefully crafted. I parked down the street, heart racing as I adjusted my sunglasses. At 2:15 sharp, the front door opened. Out stepped the woman I had seen before. Candace. She carried herself with the tired grace of someone balancing motherhood and marriage. Her hair was pulled into a loose braid, and strapped across her chest was a baby carrier. A baby. My breath hitched. It wasn't just the boy I'd seen in the window. Elijah, no Marcus, had fathered a second child. My husband wasn't just hiding another family, he was still building one. Candace adjusted the blanket shielding the baby's face, then waved to a neighbor watering his lawn. They exchanged pleasantries like old friends. She wasn't some fling tucked away in secrecy. She belonged here. She was woven into the fabric of this street, this life. I followed her at a safe distance as she strolled to a coffee shop 2 blocks away. Inside, the air smelled of roasted beans and cinnamon. Candace joined 2 other women, each cradling infants of their own. I slid into a corner table, my hat pulled low, pretending to scroll through my phone. Their laughter drifted across the cafe like a cruel melody. "You're so lucky, Candace," one of the women said, sipping her latte. "Marcus is such a hands-on dad. Not every husband is that dedicated." Marcus. The name cut through me like glass. Candace smiled, bouncing the baby gently. "Yes, Marcus is wonderful with them. Even with his work schedule, he makes time. He travels for business 3 or 4 days a week, but he always makes it up to us when he's home. Jalen especially adores him. 3 or 4 days. The exact length of Elijah's supposed business trips." Another woman leaned in. "And how is Jalen with the new baby?" Candace laughed softly. Jealous at first, but Marcus handled it beautifully. He bought him a baseball glove, and now they spend every Saturday together at the park. It's their thing. My stomach churned. Those same Saturdays Elijah had sworn he was trapped in seminars or corporate meetings. He had been at the park, throwing baseballs with his other son. Candace pulled out her phone and began swiping through pictures. I leaned ever so slightly, my chest tightening with every image. Elijah at the beach, carrying Jalen on his shoulders. Elijah, his arm wrapped proudly around Candace as she cradled her pregnant belly. Elijah, holding the newborn baby with a tenderness I hadn't seen in years. And always in those photos, he wasn't Elijah Vance. He was Marcus Stanton. Husband. Father. Devoted. I stumbled out of the cafe, my legs weak. The air outside felt too sharp, too bright, pressing against my lungs until I couldn't breathe. That's when I heard it. Go, Jalen. Kick it hard. The shout rang out from the park across the street. I turned, my pulse hammering, and there he was. Elijah, no Marcus, on the field, sleeves rolled up, tie gone, his face glowing with energy I hadn't seen in years. He clapped, shouted encouragement, jogged across the grass like a man in his 30s. Jalen ran toward him, grinning wide, and Elijah scooped him into the air, spinning him around with a laugh so genuine it stopped me cold. It wasn't an act. Not here. Not with them. For 20 minutes, I stood rooted to the sidewalk, watching him. The same man who kissed me goodnight, who whispered "I love you" as he left for work, was here, being someone else entirely. He looked happier, freer. As though this was the life he was meant to live, while I had been reduced to an afterthought, a placeholder. Who was the real man? The Elijah who shared my bed? Or the Marcus who lived and breathed in this park, surrounded by love and laughter? Or maybe there was no real man at all. Maybe there was only performance. My phone buzzed in my pocket, jolting me back. Elijah's voice filled my ear, smooth as silk. Hey, love. Meeting finished early. Want me to grab something for dinner? Across the park, he was still shouting encouragement, still laughing, still holding Jalen high in the air. I swallowed hard, my voice steady despite the rage boiling inside. That would be perfect, darling. Bring the Cabernet. You know the one. I love you, Simone, he said. My lips curled into a bitter smile. I love you too. I ended the call and watched him on the field, his laughter echoing across the grass. The lie was complete, but not for much longer. When I left that park, I knew one thing with absolute clarity. I couldn't fight Elijah with suspicion alone. He had built this double life with such precision, such confidence, that words would never expose him. I needed proof. Hard evidence. Something he couldn't explain away with his silver tongue. That night, while he slept beside me, his breathing slow and steady, I stared at the ceiling with my phone clutched in my hand. A name flashed in my memory. Sterling. A private investigator a friend had once recommended during her own messy divorce. Back then, I laughed off the idea, certain I would never need such a man. But now, his number felt like the key to my survival. I dialed. The following morning, I met Sterling in a small, forgotten diner on the edge of town. He was in his late 50s, weathered lines etched into his face like a man who had seen too much truth. He didn't waste time with pleasantries. What do you need me to find? He asked, sliding a black notebook onto the table. Everything, I whispered. My voice shook at first, then hardened. Who he is. How long it's been. Every lie he's ever told. I want to know the man I've been married to, or the man I haven't. Sterling studied me for a long moment. Sometimes the truth does more damage than the lies. Then let it, I said firmly. I can't keep living in the dark. He nodded, scribbling in his notebook. Give me a week. I thought the wait would kill me. Every night Elijah came home, acting the part of a devoted husband, while I smiled, nodded, and tucked away my fury. I washed dishes while imagining his hands on another woman. I folded his shirts while picturing him tossing a baseball to Jalen. Each chore was a dagger, each memory a wound. Finally, the week ended. Sterling called. "I have what you asked for." We met again, this time at my dining table. He carried a thick manila folder, heavier than it should have been. He set it down carefully, as though it might explode. "This," he said quietly, "is your husband." I opened it. My breath caught. The first page was a marriage certificate. Elijah Vance, no, Marcus Stanton, had married Candace 12 years ago. Not a fling. Not a mistake. A legal marriage. My hands trembled as I flipped through the papers. Birth certificates for Jalen and Sky. School forms. Medical records. All signed with the name Marcus Stanton. He married her, I choked out. While married to me. Sterling nodded. It's bigamy. Illegal. But he covered his tracks well. He forged documents, maintained 2 identities, and rotated between them seamlessly. It's not amateur work. It's a system. I felt my chest tighten, but Sterling wasn't done. He pulled out a photo, Elijah in a linen suit on a sunny beach, holding Candace's hand. Behind them, Jalen grinned with a flower garland around his neck. My heart sank. That same week, Elijah had told me he was at a corporate retreat in Miami. I had even packed his suitcase. Sterling continued, his tone grim. Candace believes you're dead. Elijah told her his first wife died in a car accident years ago. That's how he justified marrying her without raising suspicion. The words stabbed deeper than any knife could. I wasn't just betrayed. I was erased. To one family, I had never existed. I closed my eyes, but Sterling kept going. Financial records. Property deeds. Hidden accounts. A condo in Miami, a cabin in Tennessee, offshore money funneled through shell companies, and then the final blow. This account, Sterling said, sliding a page toward me, was funded with money from your mother's inheritance. He liquidated the investments 5 years ago. That money supported his second family. I couldn't hold it in. I stumbled to the bathroom and vomited until my throat burned. When I returned, Sterling sat patiently, the folder still open, the truth staring at me in black and white. How could he do this? I whispered, sinking into my chair. Because he could, Sterling said simply. Men like him rely on trust. They count on the people around them, never questioning. He built this world because you believed in him. I wiped my face, trembling. What do I do now? Sterling leaned forward. That depends on what you want. Some women take the evidence and walk away. Quiet divorce. Freedom. Others want justice. They want to burn the house of lies to the ground. I lifted my chin, my voice cold, steady. I don't just want freedom. I want him to lose everything. His reputation. His money. His family. His mask. I want him exposed to the world. For the first time, Sterling smiled faintly. Then you're not just a victim, Mrs. Vance. You're ready for war. I glanced at the folder, at the forged signatures, at the photos of Elijah laughing on a beach I never walked. My anger solidified into resolve. The woman I had been, the wife who looked away, who forgave, who believed, was gone. Now I was someone else. A woman who had nothing left to lose. And I would be the one to end him. The invitations had gone out weeks earlier. Gold foil, embossed lettering, every detail chosen by Elijah himself. Our 40th wedding anniversary. To our friends, our family, his business partners, it was to be a night of celebration. To me, it was the night of judgment. The venue glowed with chandeliers, crystal glasses catching the light like stars. Waiters glided across the room with trays of champagne. Guests whispered about what a remarkable couple we were. 40 years of love, loyalty, and success. I smiled politely, my crimson gown draped like armor over my body, my mother's diamonds sparkling at my throat. No one knew that beneath the elegance, I was carrying dynamite. Elijah looked the part of the perfect husband, his tailored navy suit, gold cufflinks, his laugh echoing across the hall as he charmed guests. He was in his element, basking in the illusion he had created. He had no idea this would be the last night he played the role. Dinner was served, wine flowed, and the music softened. Then Elijah rose, tapping his glass with a knife. The room hushed, all eyes on him. 40 years ago, he began, voice trembling with rehearsed emotion, I married the love of my life. Simone has been my partner, my anchor, my greatest blessing. Tonight, I want to promise her that the next 40 years will be even better. He reached into his pocket and produced a blue velvet box. Gasps rose as he opened it, revealing a diamond eternity band, glittering under the lights. Elijah knelt before me, the cameras of our guests flashing like fireworks. Simone, he said, smiling that polished smile, will you renew your vows with me? The room erupted in applause. Women dabbed tears from their eyes. Men clapped, nodding at the supposed devotion of this man. My children sat silently at their tables, their faces unreadable. I let the applause fade. Then I stood slowly, the red dress shimmering as I moved. My husband is right, I said softly, my voice carrying easily across the hall. Tonight should be about honesty. Elijah smiled wider, mistaking my words for affection. He reached for my hand. I pulled it back. I've prepared something, I continued, pulling my phone from my purse. Something everyone here deserves to hear. At my signal, Amara, my daughter, pressed a button on her tablet. Elijah's voice filled the hall, booming from hidden speakers. Candace, my love, I'll be home soon. Don't worry, Jalen's game is tomorrow. Simone thinks I'm stuck at a conference. She never suspects a thing. After 40 years, it's almost pathetic how easy it is. The silence that followed was suffocating. Forks froze midair. Champagne glasses trembled in hands. Then the whispers began, low at first, then rising into gasps. Elijah's face drained of color. His glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the marble floor. That's not me, he stammered. That's, someone doctored that. Oh, really? I said coldly. Then perhaps these are doctored too. The projector flickered to life. Photograph after photograph filled the screen. Elijah at a beach wedding in a white suit with Candace at his side. Elijah holding a newborn. Elijah at Christmas with 2 children. Legal documents. Marriage certificates. Bank records. The evidence poured out, undeniable. Gasps turned into cries. One woman covered her mouth. A man shook his head, muttering, "My God!" His closest business partner shoved back his chair, disgust plain on his face. For years, I said, pacing slowly, my voice sharp and steady, this man lied to me, to our children, to all of you. He built not 1, but 2 lives. 2 marriages. 2 families. He drained my mother's inheritance to support his second home. He committed fraud, forgery, and bigamy. I turned to Elijah, who sat slumped, his mask shattered. You wanted a vow renewal, Elijah? Here's my vow. I vow to never let you deceive me, or anyone else again. He lurched to his feet, desperation twisting his features. Simone, please, we can discuss this privately. Don't humiliate me here. Jamal, my son, stepped forward, his lawyer's voice like steel. Sit down, Elijah. The IRS has already been notified. The evidence has been submitted. Tonight isn't just about humiliation. It's about justice. The room buzzed like a hive. Reporters' phones lit up. Guests whispered furiously. Every ounce of power Elijah had ever held melted under the weight of truth. I reached into my purse and pulled out an envelope. Divorce papers. I laid them flat on the table in front of him, sliding a pen across the linen cloth. "Sign," I ordered. "Sign them now in front of everyone, or prepare for a trial where the world will know every sordid detail." His hands shook violently as he picked up the pen. The diamond band he had just given me still glistened on my finger, but it meant nothing. He bent forward, scrawling his name. The ink smeared, shaky, broken, just like him. When he was done, I slipped the papers back into my purse. The applause that had once celebrated his vows was gone. In its place was silence. Heavy, condemning, final. The mask of Elijah Vance had been destroyed forever. That night, when Elijah's trembling hand scratched his signature across the divorce papers in front of 50 witnesses, something inside me broke, and something else was born. For 40 years, I had lived inside his illusion, breathing his lies, surviving his betrayals. But now, I was no longer the woman who had looked away. I was the woman who had torn the curtain down. I didn't go home with him that night. I couldn't. Instead, I checked into a hotel overlooking the city skyline. I remember standing on the balcony in my red dress, mascara streaked down my face, the diamond eternity band still glinting on my finger like a cruel joke. Cars rushed below me, neon signs flickered, and for the first time in decades, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Silence. Not the silence of ignorance. The silence of freedom. The fallout was swift and merciless. By morning, headlines screamed across newspapers and television. Prominent businessman exposed as bigamist. Elijah Vance, the double life of a husband. His empire crumbled overnight. Clients fled, investors cut ties, the IRS froze his accounts. The man who once walked into boardrooms with pride now sat in interrogation rooms with shame. And me. For the first time, I wasn't invisible. My children rallied around me. Jamal handled the legal battlefield with ruthless precision, ensuring Elijah couldn't worm his way back into my life or my finances. Amara used her PR skills to control the story, shaping me not as a victim but as a survivor, a woman who had exposed decades of deceit. Even Patricia, his own sister, stood by me, shaking her head as she confessed she had always suspected something, though never the scale of his betrayal. But the hardest call came from Candace. Her voice cracked through the receiver, heavy with grief. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. He told me his first wife died years ago. He told me you were gone. I believed her. She had been living in his lie as much as I had." Her tears weren't fake. They were the cries of a woman whose foundation had been ripped away. She asked me, through sobs, "What do I tell my children? How do I explain that their father isn't who he says he is?" I had no easy answer, but I promised her one thing: your children will never be punished for his sins. They are innocent, and I will never turn my back on them. Because the truth was, Elijah's betrayal had stretched far beyond me. He had broken 2 families, but only one of us would rise from the ruins. Months passed. The divorce finalized. Elijah faced charges: bigamy, fraud, tax evasion. His face was splashed across the news, not as a hero, but as a cautionary tale. And I began to breathe again. I returned to the passions I had abandoned long ago. My brushes, my paints, my unfinished canvases that had gathered dust in the attic. With every stroke of color, I poured out my grief, my fury, my freedom. The pain became art. The art became healing. Soon, I held my first gallery exhibition, From Shadows to Light. People stood before my paintings with tears in their eyes, telling me they saw themselves in my story. For the first time, my voice wasn't silenced. It was celebrated. And there, among the paintings, I met Michael, a retired literature professor, with kind eyes and a laugh that didn't feel rehearsed. He looked at my work and said softly, "There is so much resilience here. You turned your wounds into something beautiful." We started with coffee, then dinner, then tango lessons on Thursday nights. He wasn't trying to fill the void Elijah left. He was simply standing with me in the light. Now, at 64, I am finally living, not surviving. I travel. I laugh. I paint. I dance. Next spring, I'll fly to Paris, the city I once gave up when Elijah convinced me to stay home. This time, I'm going for me. As for Elijah, he lives in obscurity, stripped of everything he once valued. The man who juggled 2 families, who lived 2 lives, is now alone, forgotten, a shadow of himself. Candace refuses to let him near the children. His business is gone. His friends have abandoned him. He is no longer the master of 2 worlds. He is a prisoner of none. Sometimes, late at night, I stand before the mirror. I see the lines etched into my face, the gray streaks in my hair, the woman time has shaped. But when I look into my own eyes, I no longer see weakness. I see fire. And I whisper to myself, "Hello, Simone. It's good to finally meet you." Because betrayal didn't destroy me. It revealed me. Clapperboard Final CTA. High engagement. Broken heart. Imagine living 40 years in a lie, only to rise stronger than ever. Fire if you believe truth always wins. Smash that like button right now. Speech balloon comment yes if you would have exposed Elijah too, and tell me where in the USA, or the world, you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe for more emotional and powerful life stories.